So you were sharing with us before we started the interview, speaking about disputes and songwriting, about a writer that you had represented who co-wrote the song "Already Gone" with the Eagles. It's now on their greatest hits album that's selling millions and millions a year. You want to elaborate a little bit on that, share that story with us?
Yeah, I was just saying he co-wrote that song, which is a huge song.
And what's his name?
Rob Strand.
Right, Rob Strand.
And for many, many years, he was not getting paid his mechanical royalties, which is what, when a record sells, the songwriters are supposed to get a mechanical royalty. Now, he co-wrote the song. And it turns out that a couple years prior, and this is how we even knew about it, there were several other, early in the Eagles' career, they either co-wrote or had outside writers on some of their early songs. Later, they never did that. But in the early days, they did. Jackson Browne was one of them. There were a few others, and they apparently weren't getting paid properly either. So they all banded together.
Why? Why was that?
I don't know. I don't know why. But Warner Chappell, which was the publisher of all these people, didn't pay. And I don't know why, really, but it just wasn't, they weren't getting paid. But they banded together. But they left my guy out. There were 4 or 5 of them, including the co-writer of Already Gone, by the way, all banded together. J.D. Souther's another one. And they sued the Eagles, they sued Irving Azoff, they sued Warner Chappell, they sued David Geffen, they sued everybody in the chain that was involved with the Eagles in those days. And they did a settlement because they were entitled to the money, obviously. So when I was introduced to this other writer who was very upset that he was left out. So I actually got a copy of the lawsuit because it was a public record, even though they settled it. And I basically just went and copied it, put Rob's name in, and went to the same people and said, well, you need to settle with our guy too, because he co-wrote this song and he's having the same issue. And of course, legal, they were wrong. They couldn't really argue about it. So it's just a matter of working something out. The problem is, when you wait many, many years, and this is a good point, there's things called the statute of limitations.
Right, because you were saying he kind of didn't really...
Oh, he waited for years, 15, 20, 30 years, he hadn't been paid. You know, if you wait too long and you sit on your rights, legally you're not entitled to go back all that way. Because you sat on your rights, so you waived them essentially. And you really shouldn't wait more than 4 years. Let's face it, you know, like we talked about Lady Gaga, you have to have... You don't have to be attractive, but you have to have something unique about your appearance to compete or set yourself apart. Because it's all visual now. People are making their decisions, not just industry, but fans too. Wow, do I want to spend my half a second on this?
Right.
Or because there's just so many things to consume people's time.
It's true. The look and the might draw them first.
Yeah,
and
that's it.
The
That's
music
the hook.
will suck
That's the
them
hook.
in.
That's the hook. And then you have to have the music to back it up.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's better to have, personally, a demo of 3 songs or 3 masters.
Interesting.
Hits, all hits. 1 hit's good enough. You know, that's more than most people have.
True.
You know, an undeniable hit, I think, will get you a deal. You can throw up on the internet and you can sell it on iTunes.
Right.
You can get something going. If it's really that good, if it's really Let's Dance by Lady Gaga, another song like that, or whatever, I Kissed a Girl, something that became that massive. If it's something that's really that timely and relevant and that good, if it's a totally unknown artist, I have to really feel like that's good enough that somebody's going to pick up on that. But you still have to do something to be proactive. You just can't demo it and sit in your garage or just mail it out to a few. You have to do something to get it going. And the tools are there now, but I understand, but still you can only take it so far.
Well, and demo these days would sound like a record 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, it still has to be, even if it's 1 or 2 songs that stand out in your stack of 30 songs that you've written that everyone, you know, you get feedback, you know that's great. Would you recommend investing the money or finding the right producer to kill it, even if it winds up a demo?
Kill it, but I don't think you need to kill it for 10 songs. I think it's a waste of money. With a rock band, they may re-release the album as is, or they're probably going to remix it. But with pop, I think it's going to totally be redone. So I look at most things as a demo.
So that's different than what we hear sometimes on the other side, and what constantly we hear as artists is that labels won't even look at you anymore until you've paid for your own record. They have no money to invest. So maybe on a mid-level, but maybe if they happen to notice particularly a young pop artist per se that really stood out, then they would invest the money. But that's all we hear these days, is that you've got to do it on your own before they'll even
Well, I think
pick up distribution. I
guess.
guess.
I think what maybe where people's lines get crossed is they'd like you to make an album or an EP to sell, because then you can say I've sold this,
Show that you've got,
and people will buy this album length thing for $10 or an EP for $5, and then you've proven to them. But then they're going to re-record it. But what I'm saying is a lot of the younger artists don't seem to be as concerned about publishing. Some of the older artists are.
Well, they might not. It's kind of the new normal now, right? I mean, that's just part of the deal.
Oh, it's part of it, and they've never made any money. When you make money and you realize what publishing means,
right?
Yeah, then it makes a
right.
difference. But I've also found that reversions, believe it or not, are becoming more common, because used to be labels and publishers, they wanted to build their catalog.
Mm-hmm. So, with these bands that you work with, or they either get a deal or they get shopped and they get passed on, but they've signed a contract, even if it's just publishing, with all the guys in the band together, and they're kind of contractually obligated to each other, even though they want to go their separate ways. Is that something that you see a lot?
Well, the content that they created, they all jointly own it on some level. Mm-hmm. It's usually, if it's a band, it's usually some sort of collaboration. If it's not all the members writing everything together, they're certainly recording everything together. Mm-hmm. So they do jointly own the content, and if the content's continuing to be exploited, there needs to be some interband agreement so everybody knows, well, do we split everything equally, or if not, is there some other arrangement? If there's some other arrangement, like if there's 5 people, if you don't have some other arrangement in writing, it's going to be assumed everybody gets an equal percentage, 20%. For every song, you could draw a picture of a pie, a circle, and just carve out slices. If there's 2 people, you're just drawing a line through the middle. If it's 50-50, 50%, the name's here, both people sign it, and then you have a collaboration agreement, even though it's just a pie chart. Very simple. If there's 10 people, you could still carve it up, and just everybody initials their slice, and the song title's there, and that's really all you need to do. Of course, it can be more elaborate than that. But what I'm saying is, if you don't have that, and there's 2 names or 3 names or 4 names, it's assumed everybody's equal.
Right, exactly.
If it ever went to court.
And I'm sure that's where a lot of the arguments come into play.
Yeah, of course, because somebody's going to say, I wrote the majority of that. You just threw in a note.
Or where's my check from?